Something that you may not know about me is that I actually trained to be an electrician in my gap year, and I worked on a number of commercial and residential properties. And then with my family, I worked on 3 property refurbishments. Now I'm looking to actually get back into the property game. And in this video, I want to answer a few key questions to figure out if it is the right time to be getting into property investing again. Property is a great investment class because it is backed by an asset, a property. It is incredibly stable and it will relatively rarely go down to completely zero. There's always something that you will get out of it. It can also generate you decent yields through the rental returns. Property also makes sure that you keep ahead of the inflation rate, and so it's a great store of your value for a long period of time. So is that the death knell for property then? Not quite. A new breed of property investing platform has emerged over the last few decades, which allow you to get started with very little upfront cash, pool it together with other people so that you are able to buy the same kind of quality properties that would be only the remit of institutions in the past. And that gives you obviously a much higher level of return as well. These are called property crowdfunding platforms. In the UK, we have people like Yielders, and abroad we have people like SmartCrowd in the UAE or Ethis in Malaysia and Indonesia. The investors then club together and rent out this property, and the returns they get will be proportionate to how much they put into it. And then eventually the property will be sold off and they will make the returns again proportionate to how much they put into it. One thing to note is that these platforms do charge a management fee, which is to be expected. So that does mean that it will incur a little bit of cost to you for the final amount that gets into your bank account. Yes, but as ever, wherever you're getting access to double-digit returns, the risk has gone up. So that means that you should keep that in mind. That doesn't mean, by the way, don't do it. But what I'm saying is you need to appreciate what you're getting into, and you probably shouldn't be putting your entire life savings into something like this. Interesting alternative examples of investing in property include things like Intro Crowd and Sama. These companies invest in brownfield and greenfield sites and then get the planning permission on them and then sell those on further. Strategies like Intro Crowd and Sama done well can be highly lucrative. Another approach could be to invest in a fixed income instrument that is underpinned by property. An example of this can include Godwin. Finally, you can take the DIY approach. This is great because it means that you will get a lot more of the overall cut. However, be aware that it will probably take you 2 to 3 properties to properly get yourself into it and understand how this whole thing works. But it is a hugely rewarding experience and it will teach you everything you need to know about the property market. So what we've learned is that property is not just a single homogeneous asset class. It actually has different kinds of subcategories within it. There are multiple ways of you investing in property at multiple stages in the property build cycle with different risk profiles as well, and different entry points as well in terms of how much you need to put up. But now thinking really practically, how do we actually decide where to put our money if we're going to invest in property? Well, the first question is, how much are you actually going to put of your overall portfolio into property? For most people, the way they think about it is that they want to park somewhere between 30 and 60% of their portfolio into things that make them a fixed income. For Muslims, because they don't really have many other fixed income options, they typically look at property to form that part of the portfolio. And with fixed income, you're typically looking at investing somewhere between 30 and 60%, depending on your risk appetite. The next key thing that you need to look at is how much do you actually have to invest? Because let's say you have less than £50,000 to invest, realistically, you're not going to be doing DIY investing. You're either going to be looking at property crowdfunding platforms, such as the ones that we've mentioned, or perhaps some fixed income instruments like Godwin and others like that have an underlying exposure to property as well. If you have more than £50,000, then the DIY option comes into play. And you will make more profit out of that if you do that properly and in the long run, because you don't have to give your fees out to anyone else other than yourself. However, if you don't want the headache, then the other investment options are still out there for you and you can still avail of them. If you do go down the DIY route, then the secret weapon that you should make use of is Sharia compliant financing. Islamic banks do offer Islamic mortgages for buy-to-let properties and commercial properties. And the benefit that you get with this is that it makes your money go further. So rather than investing £100,000 into one property, you could invest £20,000 or £30,000 as a deposit for 2 or 3 properties. That way, over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, you can expand your portfolio much faster and become the owner of many more properties at the end of that journey, rather than if you just bought with cash. That way, in 10 years' time or 20 years' time, you'll end up with far more properties. So will I be going back into property investing? Absolutely. I'll be going down the DIY route because I really like to get my hands dirty, meet the people, and really understand that space. So inshallah, I'll be diving in the next few months. Wish me luck.